My name's Adam Hutchison. I work for the RL Winston Rod Company here in Twin Bridges, Montana. Twin Bridges is a small community of 400 people. Winston started in San Francisco in 1929, which was the year of the Great Depression. So a really unique time to create a rod company, but that's when we started, and we moved to Montana in '76. So we built this facility, this big facility, in 1995. David Ndachi, who's the current owner, he bought the company from Tom Morgan in '91. And what David realized, back then G. Loomis was rolling all the blanks, and what David realized was that for Winston to really gain control of the full production process, from quality control and design and development, we needed our own rod blank rolling facility. So we started this facility we're in now in '94, completed in '95, and we've been rolling our own blanks since. Really today, we're completely focused on innovation. We lean into our history and our heritage, but we look at how do we drive fly fishing forward, what materials we can use. We've never been hindered by price or cost of materials or working with certain vendors. Like if it builds a rod we want to build, we're gonna invest in that. As of this year, we've invested in completely new machinery in the entire blank rolling facility. So all the machinery in there has been upgraded, and we've never rested on our laurels, just because that's how we did something 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's not the way we necessarily need to do it. We're always looking at advancing how we build rods, our efficiencies, our designs, and we're making those investments to make the company better than ever.
Order up, Nate.
So Nate's gonna be up.
The great part about your resin is,
dude, leave me alone. I'm doing an interview.
My name's Hank Hain. I'm the head of engineering at Winston, so rod design, manufacturing, all fun engineering things here. Lots of nerding. The design portion of it is a lot of material science, playing with your composites mostly and figuring out what's going to be the best composite layup to work in a fly rod, because there's certain properties you want to look at that will work really well in a fly rod, because you don't want a material that's really brittle, right? Because our rods are really tiny at the very top, so if you have a material that's really brittle, your rod's just going to break all the time. If you have a material that's really soft, then your rod's just going to be a wet noodle. So playing with those, figuring out what resins you want to work with to hold that rod together, that's a big part of it. A lot of the dance that I have to do with a rod design is figuring out the rates of tapers you want from your mandrels, what materials you want, how much of that you want to put where, to kind of culminate that into what do I want this thing to really do, right? So do I want it to be like ultra fast action saltwater rod like the Air 2 Max, or do I want it to be a little bit softer dry fly rod, or do I want it to be my multi-application freshwater rod? So it's taking that ideology and putting it a lot of math to it and a lot of material science to it. And then the other side of what I do is just the nitty-gritty manufacturing side of it. So looking at all of our processes and saying, are we doing really good at this, or are we doing really bad at this? And then how can we do it better? How can we do it more efficient and more consistent? So it's kind of a balance between those two things, is making new stuff and making sure we're making our current stuff as good as we possibly can. Yeah, I was here after the Air 2, but the Air 2 Max, not to sound too cocky, is kind of my baby. But the Air 2 Max was kind of it was a pretty, I think the best way to say this that's PC is it was a pretty crazy project. Because when I started full-time January of last year, and I got a day of training into how Winston designs rods, and then my boss at that time said, you have 6 months to design a brand new fast action saltwater fly rod, and it has to be way better than the old one, because a lot of our old saltwater rods got kind of a bad rap because they were more shooting rods, so they loaded really deep in the blank, which works great, but you get out on a flat, you get 30-mile-an-hour wind right in your face. It's kind of hard to pick up and shoot line through it when the strongest part of your rod's flexing kind of deep. So the Air 2 Max we kind of ripped the guts out of all of our old saltwater rods and said, how do we take a shooting rod and turn it into a really true ultra fast action rod? We tapped into a lot of the same materials that we use in the Air 2, broke out the Air 2 technology, which is a beautiful layup of material that's got a great balance of compressive strength and tensile strength, great high modulus fibers, and really just kind of took our Winston tapers and changed them from the ground up, which turned out to be a really great, fun, fast action rod. Something that I don't think Winston really has done. There might have been a few oddball rods like the Jungle that might have checked what we would consider a ultra fast action rod, but it was a whirlwind of a project, but I think it was a great success. It was a lot of fun to do.
Exactly, the sanding machine proves out if we did all of our jobs correctly on the front end of production. Because if it doesn't mic out, it's not going to build out into the final design of the part. So, but we'll sand them smooth, and then after they're sanded, they go into this room, and that's our painting room. We can't go in there because it's an absolute clean room. It takes about 3 days for a part to come out with a perfect Winston finish from start to finish.
I think that's a part of what I do that I pride myself a lot on, is getting my hands dirty. It seems like there's a lot of shift with like-minded people like myself, like engineers, where numbers on the computer screen is all they care about. I pride myself very heavily on getting my hands dirty and doing the job myself. So one thing that I always do is whenever I get prototype parts out, I build them myself, put them together myself, and go cast them. That's solely just because for me, I can actually see if that math worked out physically in hand, not try to work through that barrier of talking to one of my builders or something like that. But that whole process is a whole lot of fun. It's nice seeing everything really come to fruition, where do a whole bunch of math, have an idea in your head, you think it's gonna work, put it together yourself and see that it works really great, and then go out and cast it, and it might suck or it might not. It's kind of the fun part, but you can get very close with the right amount of math. But to me personally, I don't think there's a better way to truly design a rod, is building it start to finish yourself, because there's plenty of times too, like today, where I'm filling in on the production floor and there's something that I see that's like, I might need to tweak this because it's not going to be consistent. But yeah, it helps a ton in our designs too, being able to see it all the way through the process and see, okay, I thought I did this right, but I didn't. Now I can actually tweak it instead of trying to get that information from somebody else.
Everything, when they come out of rolling, comes out, it's not the exact size when it comes out of rolling. So when you look at blanks, that's what they look like when Andrew gets them, right? So what do we have here? We have, we have the new rod coming through here pretty quick. But this is what he gets, and then what Andrew will do to get that custom ferrule fit, he'll start cutting them on his saw and stuff, right? So he'll get tips, mid-2s, mid-3s, and butt sections, right? Once he starts cutting 4 of those sections down together, they move through the entire process the rest of the way, right? It's a unique rod. It's a custom rod from that point Andrew ferrules 4 sections to the very end. That's why every section is serial numbered. And that's why if you break a rod, you send the entire thing back to Winston so we can custom ferrule it back to the exact original fit that you bought from the fly shop. So,
where when you buy like an Air 2 Max and you're like, I want the best streamer stick in the world, I want to throw a heavy sinking line with a giant streamer on the end of it. You know, the 8.5/7 or the 9'7" is dialed exactly to do that. It's designed to do that job as best as it possibly can. And it's the same with the Pure 2s as well. Each one of those rods is specifically built like the short 3 weight, if you take that up to a small creek, you can throw a 15-foot leader and a tiny dry fly on a stream that's as wide as my desk, and it's going to do it perfectly. Or if you want to go out like on the big hole and throw hopper droppers, you can. The 5 weight will do that as best as a fly rod possibly can. So when you look at that big price tag, yeah, it's a lot, but that rod is designed all the way down to every finite detail to do whatever job it needs to do as best as it possibly can.
So this is our final QC table right here. Now that's where our Jock Holmes goes through every single Winston, inspects it from tip top to butt section to make sure it's absolutely perfect. Yep, so we have probably about 20 home wrappers in the area, and they'll come in on a weekly basis, drop off their previous order rods, pick up their next one and take them home and wrap them. They can wrap them at home. You'll see the boards that they use when we go to the coating room, but it's a really unique thing. I mean, we have communal. I call it, it's kind of like we're the confluence in many ways, right? Twin Bridges are the confluence of the Jefferson Basin, right? And same thing for Winston, right? We'll have wrappers in the Ruby Valley. We have wrappers in the Beaverhead Valley. We have wrappers in the Big Hole Valley, and people come to Twin, and that it's kind of a cool metaphor for how the rods are created, right? So Winston rod is a direct result of the entire Jefferson Basin.
The bad part of my brain wants to cop out of that and say, I don't know, I'm not in sales.
I was like, I have
I think, at least from the engineering side, what we try to do is really put together a product that's very well made. Like I said, it's gonna do the job as best as you can, because there's a lot of young people that are getting into fly fishing right now, especially after the COVID boom, because I was working in a fly shop during the COVID boom, and about every 5th customer was, I want to get into fly fishing, right? So there's that opportunity where there's a lot of those anglers that just started getting into the sport. They're probably growing in it, and they're probably figuring out, this is what I do all the time, this is what I like to do. I want to get a very fine-tuned tool that will do that as best as I can. So we just continue to try to make the best tool for that job. And I might be a little bit naive in saying it, but if it's the best rod out there that can do it, I think there's plenty of young people that would be very excited about that. And that's what we tried to do with the Air 2 Max as well, is build a lot of excitement about a rod that might be a little bit outside of the Winston mold, but we're not afraid to break from that anymore either. And there's a lot of other rods that'll be coming through the pipeline throughout the next few years that might not be necessarily what people remember their IM6 being, and it might make them mad, but it might make some younger people pretty happy. So I'm okay with that.
the only line available at Trout Hunter. Yeah.
It's exciting times here at Winston Rods. We have a great team, from the production floor to the management team, the sales and marketing teams, and the design teams. Not to mention pros and dealers are more engaged than ever. We're honoring our past, but we're really looking to the future as far as innovating new products, using great new materials, better communications with our top partners. The next 95 years are looking extremely bright, but all the while, we're going to be maintaining that Winston feel for generations to come, and we're really excited about it. Watching it in tours, and I just catch people looking at it. They're like,
Should we tell anyone?
yeah, so I'll go and I'll just like grab it and move it out of the way, and they're like, oh my God.
Dude, this is like a fancy camera, bro.
Mine looks dirty. You recording?
Yeah, I'm recording.
Are you recording?
Oh yeah, the red light's on. See the red light?
Winston is, if you look in your head.